All right, everybody, get ready because today we are going deep, and I mean deep, into decentralized finance,
DeFi.
DeFi. And more specifically, we're going to take you on a little tour of MANTRA DAO.
Should be a fun one.
It should be. We're talking like community governance, next level staking, and even, get this, a system that actually rewards you for being a good citizen in their ecosystem.
All that good stuff. And the best part is we've got excerpts straight from the source. Their white paper, OM_USDT.PDF.
Which means we're pulling out the most interesting stuff just for you.
Absolutely.
No fluff here. We're going to break it all down. How does MANTRA DAO plan to, revolutionize how we interact with finance in this whole Web3 world? I mean, I know you've probably heard of a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, but what does that even mean?
Yeah, so think of it like a company, right? But there's no one big boss making all the decisions. Instead, every shareholder gets an equal vote.
Okay, so it's more like a digital co-op.
Exactly. Except it's like turbocharged, right?
Yeah.
Every member has a voice, and what they own, their stake, that's how much their vote actually matters. So cool.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So how does MANTRA DAO fit into all of this? What makes them different?
So MANTRA DAO, they're really tackling some of the toughest parts of DeFi. I mean, they're making it easier for you to earn passive income on your crypto. They're making it easier to get loans. And they even have this really interesting, decentralized savings game.
Oh, wow. Okay, tell me more about this savings game later, but first let's talk about their staking. Because I was reading their white paper, and it looks like they're not just limited to one blockchain, which is kind of different.
Right, exactly. So they're starting with Polkadot assets, like DOT and KSM.
For sure.
But the plan is to branch out. Eventually, you'll be able to stake things like Tezos, Tron, Cardano, even Ethereum 2.0.
Wow. So, I mean, for someone who's listening who doesn't really know a lot about staking, what is it? It's like putting your crypto to work, right? Kind of like earning interest, but with crypto.
Yeah, it's a good way to think about it. But MANTRA DAO, they take it up a notch. Like, say you stake $1,000 worth of DOT and you're getting like a 20% return every year. That's an extra $200, which is already nice.
Yeah.
Right? But then on top of that, MANTRA DAO is like, here's at least 50% of that $200 in our own governance token, OM.
So you're making even more just by staking through their platform.
Exactly. But here's the really cool part, and this is where it gets interesting. They have something called the Karma Protocol. And basically, it's like a reputation score. It's based on what you do within their system, right? How active you are. And depending on your karma level, you could earn up to 100% of that $200 in OM.
Okay, now that's what I'm talking about. So the more involved you are, the more you stand to earn. I like that.
Exactly.
I do like that. But they're not just about staking, are they?
Yeah.
Tell me about their lending platform.
Yeah. So they're rolling it out in phases, which I think is smart.
Okay.
So phase one is all about connecting their platform to all the other lending platforms that are already out there,
Gotcha.
particularly the ones on Ethereum. So you can think about they're bridging the gap between MANTRA DAO and those established protocols.
So at first, it's almost like they're like a gateway.
Yeah, you could say that, but it's all part of the plan because they're setting the stage for their own lending system.
Which they'll roll out in phase two.
Well, phase two is more about teaming up with third-party lending providers. So that'll give even more options for, saving and borrowing. But what's important here is that they're not trying to be this walled garden. They want to be really well connected across a bunch of different blockchains.
Yeah, they want to build a network.
Exactly. And this all leads to phase three, and this is where it gets really wild. They're going to launch their own lending algorithm and their own stablecoin.
Oh, very interesting. And they compare this to MakerDAO's DAI stablecoin in their white paper, but they say it's different, right?
Yeah, the biggest difference is what backs it up, the collateral. DAI is limited to stuff from the Ethereum network, but USDOM, that's MANTRA DAO's stablecoin, can use anything on the Polkadot network.
Okay.
So we're talking DOT, KSM, even wrapped Bitcoin and Ethereum.
That's huge. Because Polkadot is designed to work with all these different blockchains, right? So
Yeah.
USDOM could potentially be backed by way more stuff than DAI, which could make it much more stable.
You got it. That's exactly what they're going for.
That's really interesting.
Oh,
Okay, so let's talk about the heartbeat of MANTRA DAO.
Yeah.
Let's talk about OM, their governance token, and the Karma protocol that you mentioned before.
Yeah, and this is what's so cool about MANTRA DAO. They get it. They understand that building a successful DAO, it's not just about the tech. It's about building a community that really thrives.
Yeah, for sure.
That's where OM and Karma come in.
Okay, so it's not just about having some OM tokens. It's about actually doing something with them, engaging with Mantra DAO.
Exactly. So you earn karma by doing things like staking your Roma, taking out and repaying your loans responsibly, or even just telling your friends about Mantra DAO.
So they basically gamified being a good DeFi citizen.
In a way, yeah. And as you rack up karma, you level up in their system. And as you level up, you get access to even better rewards.
Ooh, okay. Like what kind of rewards are we talking about here? Give me the good stuff.
All right, so there are 10 tiers, right? At the lower levels, you get perks like extra entries into their mantra pool, kind of like a lottery, but with crypto.
Okay.
You also get a little boost to your staking rewards, but it gets
Mhm.
better as you climb the tiers.
It gets even better, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Imagine, like, free access to that mantra pool, big discounts on your staking and loan fees, and even more influence on how mantra AAO actually evolves, like through their governance proposals. So the more invested you are in the community, the more you get back.
I really like the karma system. I got to say, it's a really good idea. But let's not forget about the people behind the scenes. Right. Mantra DAO has the Mantra DAO Foundation, right?
Yeah, and their white paper goes into detail about how it's all structured and how the foundation manages the DAO's assets.
So it's not like the foundation is calling all the shots.
Right.
They're not another centralized authority.
No, not at all. Think of them more as caretakers. They handle security, manage funds responsibly, and most importantly, make sure that they're carrying out what the community wants, which is all decided through the DAO's governance.
So they emphasize transparency and accountability to the OM holders.
Absolutely. They make that very clear. But there's one more thing about the foundation that I found really interesting. They're really putting their money where their mouth is when it comes to staking.
Oh, really? How so?
They actually use 15% of the funds they raise to run a staking as a service business for the members.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they take some of the money and stake it on other platforms, and then whatever they earn, they give back to the Mantra DAO community. It's like they're saying, we believe in this so much, we're putting our own skin in the game.
I always like to see that
Hmm?
because that builds a lot of trust
For sure.
when you know that they're invested in their own project.
Exactly. And it all ties back into this bigger vision they have.
Which is?
A much fairer, much more accessible financial system.
I like it.
One where everyday people like you and me, we have a say in how things are run.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what they're going for.
It's definitely an ambitious goal,
Yeah.
but I think it's something that resonates with a lot of people,
Definitely.
especially people who don't feel like they have a place in the existing financial system.
100%.
But, I mean, building a DAO, especially one with goals this big, there are going to be challenges.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But what are some of the hurdles they might face?
Well, I mean, the regulatory landscape is constantly changing, especially in DeFi.
Yeah, it's like the Wild West out there.
Right. So for Mantra DAO to be successful in the long term, they have to stay ahead of the game when it comes to regulations.
Yeah, for sure. It makes you wonder, though, how decentralized can these systems really be if they still have to play by the rules of traditional finance? But I guess that's a topic for another deep dive.
Definitely a conversation for another time.
Yeah, for sure. It makes you wonder, though, how decentralized can these systems really be if they still have to play by the rules of traditional finance? But I guess that's a topic for another deep dive.
Definitely a conversation for another time.
For sure. So we were talking about how Mantra DAO wants to create this fairer, more accessible system. And, we were talking about USDM and how it might be even more stable than other stablecoins because of how it uses collateral. But is there anything else about it that makes it stable?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So it's not just the collateral. They actually have this really interesting idea where they can adjust how the stability mechanisms work based on what the market's doing.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So instead of just having one set of rules, they can actually adapt in real time to any volatility.
Well, that's smart.
Right.
Yeah, that's like building in shock absorbers for crypto.
Exactly. It's a really cool approach and something you don't see very often with these more traditional stablecoins.
Very cool. Now, you mentioned that the Mantra DAO Foundation is putting 15% of their funds into like a staking as a service for their members, right?
Yeah.
How does that benefit users more so than like other DAOs? It seems like kind of unusual that they would do that.
Yeah, you're right. It's not something you see every day. And I think that's what makes it so interesting. A lot of DAOs will use their treasury funds for development or for marketing, things like that.
Right.
But Mantra DAO, they're really in it to win it, right? They're taking part in the DeFi ecosystem and they're doing it for their members. So they're generating this passive income stream, which then gets used for things like buying back OM or funding that mantra pool we talked about, or just like growing their assets under management.
Okay.
It's really cool when you think about it because it really aligns their incentives with your incentive.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So it's almost like having your own little crypto hedge fund working for you in the background. Yeah,
Exactly. It's a really cool approach, and it's one of the things that makes Mantra DAO stand out.
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to the karma system for a sec,
Yeah.
because you mentioned it was a 10-tier system.
Mhm.
What does it actually look like to climb through those tiers and unlock those rewards? You made it sound pretty good.
Yeah, so imagine it's like a video game.
Okay.
But instead
Hi-
of like leveling up your character, you're leveling up your financial freedom, right?
I like it.
Yeah. So you start at tier 1 and you level up by getting karma points. And we talked about how you earn karma by doing things like staking or referring your friends.
Right. Like being a good DeFi citizen.
Exactly. So, things like voting in the governance process or taking out loans and actually repaying them responsibly.
Okay.
Even little things like if you contribute to the platform development or you suggest improvements, you can earn karma points.
So they want you to be involved in every aspect.
Exactly. Yeah.
I like that. I'm also curious about the 4-week proposal process.
Yeah.
You mentioned that earlier. How does that work?
Well, let's say you've got this awesome idea for Mantra DAO,
Okay.
like a way to make it even better, a new feature, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You can actually submit that idea as a proposal, and then the community votes on it.
Oh, well, that's cool.
Yeah. So it's not just the foundation making all the decisions. Anyone can have a say.
But why 4 weeks? Why that time frame?
So it's all about transparency and giving everyone enough time to wrap their head around your proposal. They want to be able to really think about the impact that it could have. So during those 4 weeks, your proposal is open for everyone to talk about it, debate it, whatever. That way the entire Mantra DAO community can get involved, share what they think, and then make an informed decision.
That's a lot different than how traditional companies do it.
Yeah, for sure. And this way the community actually has power.
That makes sense.
And to make sure that people aren't just spamming proposals or suggesting things that aren't serious,
Right.
you actually have to put up a little bit of collateral when you submit a proposal. But then if your proposal gets approved, you get your collateral back. And you might even get a reward from the DAO treasury.
Oh, wow. So they incentivize good proposals
Exactly.
that actually benefit everyone.
It's really smart, right? That way all the, half-baked ideas get weeded out, and only the ideas that'll actually make a difference, those are the ones that rise to the top.
I like that. It's a really good system.
Yeah, it all comes back to that idea of creating a system where people are rewarded for making the DAO better.
Totally. That's awesome. MANTRA DAO, they've really thought of everything, haven't they? I mean, we've got this staking that gives you amazing returns. We've got a multi-phase lending platform, this game-changing stablecoin, USDOM, not to mention the governance and the karma system. It's a lot. What's the biggest takeaway for you?
For me, it's how well they've thought everything through. It's not just random features, right? They clearly understand the challenges that DeFi is facing, and they're tackling them head on.
Yeah, for sure. They definitely seem like they're playing the long game.
Absolutely. They're building for the future, and they want everyone to be a part of it.
They really do. It's actually really impressive how everything fits together, But, as we've been saying, building something this big, there are going to be risks. So what do you think some of the biggest challenges that MANTRA DAO might face as they grow?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, one of the biggest things for any DeFi project is regulation. Because, let's be real, governments are still trying to figure out what to do with all this.
Yeah, it's tough.
It changes so fast,
Yeah,
So for Mantra DAO to really make it, they have to stay ahead of the curve. They have to make sure they're always playing by the rules, even when the rules keep changing.
for sure. I mean, it makes you wonder, how decentralized can any of this really be if they still have to follow the rules set by the old traditional financial systems?
Right.
This is probably a conversation for another deep dive, though.
Another deep dive, yeah, for sure.
Definitely. So another thing, any project that's community-driven, with everyone having a say, they're always trying to find that balance between being decentralized but also, actually getting things done.
Yeah, 100%. Because you have this idea, right? This perfect world where everyone has an equal voice, every decision is made together. But in reality, that can be really slow.
Right. Especially when your community's growing all the time.
Exactly. So how do you make those decisions faster, smoother, but also still make sure that everyone feels like they're being heard?
Right. Like their vote matters.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a tough one for sure. But, I mean, they seem to have really thought of everything else.
Yeah.
So I'm optimistic.
Yeah. No, they seem on top of it.
Yeah.
And the technical side of it, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Building a platform that has to work with all these different blockchains.
Yeah. And it has to work well. That takes serious skill. You got to be on your toes.
For sure. And not to mention, like, staying ahead of all the bad actors out there.
Oh, absolutely.
Security is so important, especially in DeFi.
Yeah, if something goes wrong, it can really hurt.
Right. It erodes trust.
Totally.
But it seems like they've got that covered. At least from the white paper, it seems like they've got a good system in place.
They do.
And, they talk about being committed to audits
Yeah.
and constantly making things better. So very cool.
Always improving.
Right. Now, before we wrap things up, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier about MANTRA DAO's vision of this, fairer and more accessible financial system.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see their platform contributing to that, like really making a difference?
So for me, the biggest thing is how MANTRA DAO makes it easier for everyone to get involved in DeFi.
Okay.
Because, before you needed to know all the technical stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of a barrier to entry.
Oh, totally. And you had to have a lot of money to even get started. It was like this exclusive club.
Exactly.
But MANTRA DAO is changing that. Their platform is really easy to use.
Yeah.
They have all kinds of assets you can use, and you don't need a ton of money to start staking or lending.
Right. Yeah.
It's DeFi for everyone, basically.
It's democratizing finance. That's really cool.
Exactly. And that's what's so powerful. They're not just building a platform, they're building a movement.
It's inspiring, for sure.
Totally.
Well, I have to say, we have gone really deep today.
We really have.
We've talked about all the ins and outs of MANTRA DAO, staking, lending, their governance, the Karma protocol. We even got a glimpse into the future of all this.
Yeah, and it's exciting.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
a lot to think about.
And this was really just the tip of the iceberg.
For anyone listening who wants to go even deeper, check out their white paper, om.usdt.pdf. We'll link it in the show notes. So until next time, keep exploring. The future of finance is in your hands.